Hey everybody, my name is Nadia. I have so far lived in around 5 countries, and I've also helped people on their immigration journey, specifically in the UK with a global talent visa. I talk to immigrants all the time. People ask me questions about choosing a country, moving countries, and ultimately how do I make a correct decision so that I don't regret it. I thought I'd record some of my thoughts based on what I've gone through and what I've observed people go through on their immigration journey. First thing to know if you're planning to move somewhere for the first time is that you really need to give yourself the permission to make a mistake. Immigration is such a huge step. It might seem to you that everybody is moving, everybody's immigrating, but in reality, by taking this step to move somewhere, you're doing something that most people would really be scared of, right? So it's a massive decision. It's very difficult to gather all the information that you need. Also, things change, the world changes. So you need to be okay with making a mistake and maybe accept the fact that you might have to move again, or maybe you will have to move back to your home country. It seems tragic, it seems like a big deal, but in reality, a lot of people have to move a few times. A lot of people have to move back home, and it's not always a tragic thing. Usually things work out for the better, even though it doesn't seem it like this in the specific moment when you're going through something. With that out of the way, I think you really need to be very clear on what your goals and priorities are when you're choosing a country to move to. Everyone's goals and priorities are different. I think it's quite obvious, but also I do talk to a lot of people who are early on in their immigration journey, and they're very confused about how they make the decision. You need to start with yourself and your goal, your specific ambition at this point in time. You shouldn't just go on YouTube and see what the current hype is and what everybody else is doing. You are not everybody, you are you. So why does it matter to you that people are moving to Dubai and people are leaving the UK? How crucial it is for your specific decision. It's interesting and it's very informative to gather this information, so then you have a realistic understanding of what the specific country is going through right now, so that when you move there, you are not taken aback by crazy taxes or high crime or other issues with a specific country. However, your decision shouldn't be informed by hype or by what everybody else is doing. If you're early in your career journey, and it's really important for you to have access to a lot of job opportunities in specific sectors, let's say finance, right? So maybe it is a good idea for you to move to London because you want to have access to the opportunities. You want to have access to people who are doing things in the specific sphere where you want to succeed. If you are a tech professional, if you want to do a startup, it still might make sense for you to try to move to Silicon Valley, to San Francisco, to be around people doing those things. I do think that the promise of the remote age where it doesn't matter where you are, you can still do whatever you want, I think it hasn't really been realized to a full extent. It still really matters where you're located, where you have access to the best opportunities that a specific city can offer. You really need to start from that, right? For instance, if you need a job in a specific sphere, you need to start your research from looking at where the biggest concentration of those jobs are. Where do people move who want to do the thing that you want to do? You start from there, especially if you're young. You need to optimize for learning, for opportunities. You need to optimize for connections, for building your social capital. You shouldn't be optimizing for the lowest possible taxes or for the most beautiful lifestyle. I don't think that it's the most optimal thing because there will be a time for that later in your life. So in this case, maybe those videos of millionaires live in a specific location that has become too high tax are not very relevant for you just because you are not a millionaire yourself yet. If, for instance, you're already at the stage where you need to optimize for low taxes, for extra protection for your assets, then you will be choosing countries very differently than somebody who's just starting out and they want to make a break in a specific industry. If you don't worry about taxes or protecting your wealth, and the most important thing for you is lifestyle, then you will be choosing very different locations. If you want to live a very relaxed, chill, low-cost lifestyle with little stress, you might be looking at countries in, let's say, Southeast Asia. Maybe you'll be looking at Vietnam, maybe Thailand, maybe Bali. Those countries will be aligned with what you specifically want to do at this stage in your life. Those priorities will change as life goes. Life is long. At some point, you might realize that you no longer need access to physical opportunities to be in this massive city like New York or London. You don't want to pay the rent, you don't want to pay the mortgage there, and you've gotten enough experience from those big cities, and now you want to relocate and build a different lifestyle, maybe build your own business. At this stage, it makes sense to research what other places exist, maybe places with lower cost of living, better lifestyle, better weather, better schools. Maybe you want to live close to the ocean or whatever else it might be, right? But this all depends on you and your goals. A very useful concept when you think about immigration is the flag theory that was originally created in the 1960s. It was a 3-flag theory, at first then 5 flags, then it has been adapted and changed by different people who talk about it. I personally learned about the flag theory from Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist. I do recommend you check out the YouTube channel Nomad Capitalist if you're interested in global lifestyle. It might seem that maybe this is not relevant for you if you're just starting out in your career, maybe you're just working some job and you don't really have assets, or you don't have a business and you don't have that much money to worry about. Still, I do think that it's worth watching this channel and learning about those ideas before you have the money to really use those ideas in practice. The idea of the flag theory is that no one country can be good for everything. You can't expect a country to satisfy your needs and your wants in every single aspect of your life. If you think about it, it does make things much easier, because then you can really treat a country as a service provider, right? You are in a specific country for a specific number of years. As long as it's worth staying there, you stay there. And you need to be very specific on what the specific place is good for to make use of the flag theory. People use flag theory in different ways, and there are different ways to implement it, but usually this will mean having some real estate in different locations, spending part of the year in one place, part of the year in another place. So this may be for lifestyle reasons. Then there is obviously some tax optimization, usually for people who are quite wealthy. So they will be a tax resident in a low tax jurisdiction. Maybe their business will be registered somewhere else, location that is better for this specific business. Another country might be better for storing of their assets. There are social reasons as well. For instance, somebody wants to date in a specific location and they go there to find a wife or a husband. It is a comprehensive approach, which I think is very useful in the modern world. Even if you currently think that this is super irrelevant to you, I do think that it is relevant to everybody. Just knowing that those things exist, those ideas exist, I think can open up your mind to things that you never expected to exist at all. One thing that I've seen a lot of people do, even people who have no money and no connections, is trying to get a second or third passport or residency. Very often it is by descent, right? If your ancestors were of a specific nationality or they were living in a specific location, sometimes you might be able to get the passport of this country, or maybe a residency there that leads to a passport. I think getting a second or a third passport, especially if you have a weak passport, but even if you don't, can be a game changer. I have seen people go through so much suffering and so much discrimination just on the basis of what passport they hold, and I do know that having a second passport at this specific moment would be a game changer for them. I think this is the minimum takeaway from the flag theory, is trying to look into getting a second passport or residency. Let me know in the comments if this is something, a topic that's interesting to you, because I have spent a lot of time thinking about it and just observing how big of an influence getting a passport has on a person, and then how your life completely changes once you have this piece of paper. You're the same person, right? But not really. You get so much more freedom and so many more opportunities if you have a proper passport. Another important lesson that I've learned so far is that I shouldn't tie my identity to a specific country. It is very hard. The sunk cost is real. If you have spent time in a country, if you have spent money, and so much money, on getting a specific visa, and you have invested so much of your resources in a specific country, and then at some point you just realize that it's not working out for you. Signs everywhere that this is not the place where you should be. Things are literally falling apart and just stuff is happening to you, and this is maybe not the best place for you, but you still cling to the idea that this is your identity. You are a person living in New York, right? How can I move from New York to Bali? How can I move home from London to my home country? This is such a failure. I think it's really important not to tie tie your identity to a country, you should try to disassociate from it, right? So a country is a place where you live for a specific number of years. Maybe even you live there for most of your life, but still it's not you, it's not your identity. And if you treat it this way, it might be much easier for you to make correct decisions for you and your family. Those decisions are very often not easy, but they have to be made. If you give yourself the right to make a mistake, like I've said in the beginning to this video, this will be so much easier for you. I don't know, was this super obvious? Was it something that everybody knows? I hope there was something in this that helped you. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. If you're an immigrant, what was the biggest question that you struggled with when choosing the country? What is your biggest struggle right now as an immigrant? And what do you want to learn more? What do you want me to talk about more on this channel? I'll be very happy to hear your feedback. Thank you so much for watching this. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.